Okay, good afternoon everyone and good morning if you're rewatching this during the morning. Okay, so today we will be discussing about this is a video lecture about our chapter number 6, which is all about your skeletal system, or specifically focusing on the different types of bones no found in our body and also its functions. Okay, so let's start. So in this chapter, you will be able to know the function of the bone and how it is being developed inside the body from birth no to mature bones, and then what is the mechanism of growth of certain types of bones. You will also learn about the factors that affect bone growth and maintenance. So ano ba yung pwedeng makapagpahinto no or makapagpabilis sa growth ng ating skeletal system. Another one, you will learn about the bone structure. So this includes your bone tissue, the gross structure of a typical long bone, and then the bone surface markings. You will also be able to classify the different bones in the bodies, and you will know about the divisions of the skeletal system, including the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. We will also tackle different types of joints at the end of this chapter and the different disorders that are related to bones and joints. So, yan yung naman nitong chapter na ito. And as you may have seen no, from your course pack, if you've already had, uh, you've already taken a look no, sa inyong course pack, medyo mahaba ang ating chapter number 6. Okay, so let's start with the functions of the bones. Your bones have different no important functions sa body, and one of that is the support. So ito yung pinaka basic na function niya, support. So your bones provide a framework that supports the body and cradles its soft organs. For example natin dito, bones of lower limbs will act as the pillar, no? They are the pillars of our body, supporting the whole body. And as well as the rib cage that supports the thoracic wall. So, uh, ang bones natin, they are hard, no? Mahirap silang ma-break because ang main function nila is for supporting the standing up no, of the body while we stand up. So, sila yung support para makatayo tayo. And also, they protect very sensitive and soft organs inside the body. Next, protection. So, the fused bones of your skull will protect the brain, and the vertebrae surround the spinal cord, and the rib cage helps protect the vital organs of the thorax, or our, do you call this, our trunk, no, the body trunk. Now, as you can see here, these types of bones such as your skull and your rib cage and your vertebrae, examples yan sila ng mga bones na hindi na belong sa short and sa long bone. Okay, so meron silang specific structure which helps them no in protecting certain types of organ. So the shape of the bone will define its function in protection. Okay? Another one is your movement. So the movement, no, skeletal muscles which attach to the bones by tendons use bones as a lever to move the body and its parts. So ang muscles natin is the one producing the action, okay? Siya yung nagpapakontract no ng it contracts to produce movement. But muscle alone will not produce a movement. Before you will produce a movement by the body or an action by the body, the muscle will first tends to use the bones as levers. So, siya yung nagpapagalaw sa bones, okay? Kung muscle lang tayo lahat, class, you will not be able to do movement. So, kailangan meron siyang dinidikitan na mga lever in order to produce a certain type of movement. So, when a muscle contracts, a movement is produced. Okay? Don't worry, ang ating muscular system will follow the skeletal system. So, magkalapit sila so that you will be able to relate the function of the skeletal system to the function of the muscle system. Okay, as a result, we can walk, grasp objects, and breathe. The design of the joints determine the types of the movement possible. Another factor that uh, produces, they call this, another factor that will produce your movement class are the joints. Okay? So, the joints connects your different types of bones, no, in the body. And without the joints, we will not be able to raise our hand, bend our knee, okay, bend our back, no. It all depends on the different types of joints and cartilages that are found in the body. So, tatlo yan sila. You have the muscle, you have the bones, and you have the joints in producing a movement. Okay. Next, your bone also serves as a storage for minerals and growth factors. Sige, unahin natin yung growth factors. Ano kaya yung growth factors? When we say growth factors, para ito silang mga, kumbaga, signaling, no? Signaling molecules between cells. So, ano yung mga signal na dinadala nitong growth factors? They promote, no, the signals or the signaling molecules promote cell differentiation. Okay? Cell differentiation, you're turning one cell into another type of cell. So, yan siya, growth factors. Now, ang growth factors ninyo, pati ang ibang types ng minerals such as your calcium is stored inside the bones. Okay? Your bone is a reservoir for minerals, most importantly calcium and phosphate. The stored minerals are released into the bloodstream as needed for distribution to all parts of the body. Indeed, deposits and withdrawals of minerals to and from the bones go on almost continuously. So, yung bones ninyo, every now and then, merong nade-deposit na minerals. Every now and then, meron namang nawi-withdraw na minerals from it depending on the requirement or the need, no, of the body. Okay? Additionally, mineralized bones matrix or bone matrix stores important growth factors such as your insulin-like growth factor, uh, transforming growth factor, bone morphogenic proteins, and others. So, dito sa ating bones, so marami ka ring iba't ibang types ng growth factors na makikita. For example, yung number 1 natin is the insulin-like growth factor. Or pwede mo rin siyang tawagin as IGF-1. Okay? IGF-1 or insulin-like growth factor 1. So, ano ba ibig sabihin ng insulin-like growth factor 1? Your IGF-1, along with your growth hormones that is released by certain glands, they both promote normal bone tissue growth and development. Okay? So, ang insulin-like growth factor 1 natin, ginagamit siya para mag-promote ng normal, no, na growth na and development ng mga bone tissue. Okay? So, throughout life, habang lumalaki yung isang individual from child to a mature individual, continuous yung ating pag-release, no, ng insulin-like growth factor 1 para tumangkad din, no, or lumaki yung individual. Now, another one, meron pa ba? Yung sinabi niya ditong bone morphogenic protein. So, coming from its name, this one is a protein molecule. So, pwede mo rin siyang tawagin as BMP, no? Bone morphogenic protein or BMP. So, para saan ito? It actually plays a role, no, in the processes during formation and maintenance of various organs. So, ang bone morphogenic proteins natin, sila yung mga proteins na responsible for the formation and siguro after formation, i-maintain, no, yung different types of organs such as the bone itself, the cartilages, the muscles, your kidney, and also the blood vessels. Okay, so para siya sa formation ng mga iba't ibang types ng organs. Okay? Ano pa ba? Transforming factor. Okay, itong mga transforming factors natin, class. This one. Function niya lang yan is para mag-regulate no ng different types of functional events in the body. For example, development, differentiation of cells, growth, pwede rin sa immune response, no? So when we say transforming factors, these are also proteins. Okay? So, proteins din yan sila na nagko-control ng growth and different activities in the body. Okay? So, lahat yan no, ng mga nabanggit ko or the IGF-1, the transforming growth factor, and the BMP, all of these are found and stored no inside your bones. So, ang bones natin, hindi lang, ang function niya, hindi lang para mag-support. Para rin siya sa storage of different nutrients, minerals, and substances. Okay? Another function is the blood cell formation. So, most blood cell formation or what you call the hematopoiesis occurs in the marrow cavities of certain bones. Or when you say hematopoiesis, this is the formation of your blood cells. So, yan ang term niya ha. Scientific term ng formation ng different types of blood cells. Hematopoiesis. Okay, so nangyayari yan sa loob ng bone marrow. And your bone marrow is found inside the bones. Okay, let's go to the bone development and growth. Ossification is the process of bone formation. So yan ang name ng bone formation, ossification. And this begins during the 6th or 7th week of the embryonic life. Bakit? Kailan ba natin masasabi na embryo and hindi fetus, no? Ipagkaiba natin, let's differentiate an embryo from a fetus. When you say embryo, this is the 2nd to 8th week after fertilization. So, di ba na-fertilize ng sperm ang egg? After, pagdating ng 2nd week, papuntang 8th week, nagiging embryo siya. Okay? And then, paglampas ng 8th week, saka mo na siya tatawaging fetus. Okay? Please remember, ang embryo natin, you will call your fertilized egg as an embryo kapag 2nd week to 8th week. After 8 weeks, no, siguro 9 weeks to the present, or 9 weeks hanggang before mailuwal yung baby, then you will call that as fetus. Okay? So, let's continue. Okay, yung ossification natin nangyayari in the embryonic stage kapag embryo pa yung offsprings, no, sa loob ng nanay, na-form siya in the embryonic stage. So, simula 6th to 7th week, no? So, 2 weeks yung ossification. Pagdating ng 6th week, no, yung embryo ninyo, meron na siyang small bones. The 2 types of ossification are your intramembranous and the endochondral. So, may dalawa tayong types ng ossification. The intramembranous ossification, ito yung process in which the bones are directly on or within loose fibers connective tissue membrane. So, meaning, kapag intramembranous ossification, ang bone ninyo nag-originate siya sa mga loose fibrous connective tissue membranes. Nanggaling siya sa tissue membranes. Kapag sinabi namang endochondral ossification, ang bone ninyo nanggaling sa hyaline cartilage. So, hindi nanggaling sa tissue. Okay? Ang endochondral ossification, ang origin ng bone is the hyaline cartilage. Okay, next. So, additional lang, pag sinabi nating endochondral ossification, this means that the cartilage will slowly but surely be replaced no by a bone. So galing cartilage, since the embryonic stage, dahan-dahang mako-convert yung cartilage into a bone or mature bone. Okay, so that is endochondral ossification. Number 3, let's talk about the factors that affect bone growth and maintenance. Number 1, ito na yung mga factors natin na makakaapekto no kung tatangkad ka ba or hindi ka tatangkad. No? So, heredity. Siyempre, if ang parents mo ay, for example, 6-footer, hindi malayong magiging 6-footer ka rin, no? Kasi we're talking about genetics, genes. Pero kapag, for example, maliliit kayo lahat, no, sa relatives mo, simula sa lolo hanggang sa mga pinsan, then siguro maybe bawasan natin yung ating hope na maging matangkad. Maliban na lang if you are drinking supplements and other types of medicine, no, na pwedeng magpatangkad. Okay, but 100 or hindi naman siguro 100%, but at least 50% of the bone growth no will come from heredity, meaning sa genes ng parents mo, from mama and papa. Okay, so genes contribute to genetic potential for height, but again, potential lang ito siya. Okay, kasi pwede mo pa namang ma-modify ang bone growth depending on the different factors pa, no, in the environment. For example, nutrition. So, part of the bone matrix includes calcium, phosphorus, protein. Become vitamin D is needed for absorption of calcium in the small intestine. Vitamin C and A are needed for bone matrix and bone matrix production. Unang-una, ano ba yung bone matrix? Okay, this is actually the part of the bone tissue, no? So, bone tissue siya that forms the mass of the bone. Okay, siya ang nagpo-form ng mass ng bone when you say bone matrix. So, may dalawang components ang bone matrix natin. Number 1 is the organic components. Number 2, the inorganic components. So, examples ng mga organic components, you have collagen, pwede ring ground substances, and then examples for inorganic, bone salts, no? Mga bone salts natin. Now, in the bone matrix, you will find different types of nutritions for the bone. You have the calcium, the phosphorus, and the protein. And then another one is your vitamin D. Okay? Kasi itong vitamin D, it is used, no? It is needed actually in order for your body to absorb calcium, no? In the small intestine. For example, inom ka ng milk kasi gusto mong tumangkad, no? Kaso lang, kahit nagaano ka pang kalakas no, na uminom ng calcium, if kulang ka sa vitamin D, the calcium that you ate or yung ininom mo na gatas, yung calcium doon, hindi siya ma-absorb ng body mo, hindi siya ma-absorb ng small intestine if kulang ka ng vitamin D. So, if you want to grow, no, para sa mga, siguro sa mga maliliit na bata, if meron kayo sa bahay ninyo, let them be seen by sunlight. Okay? Or ipainumin sila ng mga vitamins na merong vitamin D. Kasi importante ang sunlight or UV rays for the for the absorption of calcium. Okay? Another one. Okay, so vitamin C and vitamin A, yan, kailangan din sila for bone matrix production or what you call calcification. Okay, so kapag nagproduce ka na ng mass ng bone, ang tawag dyan is calcification. Another one are hormones. So, concerned with cell division, protein synthesis, calcium metabolism, and energy production. So, ang hormones natin, it promotes cell proliferation, no? So, when we say cell proliferation, this means that the cell is dividing and therefore the cell increases in number, hindi in size. Okay? Kapag sinabi mong cell proliferation, nag-i-increase ang number ng cells. Hindi siya nag-i-increase in size. So, syempre kapag nag-increase ang cells ng bones mo, that signifies growth. Okay? Another one, exercise and stress. So, your bones need to carry something, no? It needs to carry weight para ang bone mo is lumaki, okay? Because if wala silang weight, no, if there's no weight bearing, uh, if hindi gumagalaw yung tao, nakahiga lang siya, the bones will lose calcium and become brittle. So, one example siguro niyan is yung mga bedridden patients, no? Katagalan nagiging marupok yung bones nila because of the lack of activity of the body. Okay, let's go to the bone structure. So, we have different tissues found inside the bone structure. Number one is your osteocytes. So, your osteocytes class, ito sila ang tinatawag natin na mature bone cells. Okay, pag nasa tamang edad na yung isang individual, if mature na ang bones niya, that means the cells in the bones of the individual is already called osteocytes. They are found in the matrix of calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, and collagen. Number two, you have the compact bone. Contains Haversian systems. Ano ba itong mga they call this Haversian systems? When we say Haversian system class, ito yung, asan ba, nandito ba? Sa example natin, Haversian system. I think hindi napakita. But anyway, ang Haversian system natin is found at the center of your osteons. Ang osteons natin, ito yung mga maliliit, no, na bilog, no? This one, the osteon. Okay? So these are small circular components of your bone tissue, and yung butas sa gitna, class, nakita nyo yan, yan ang Haversian system. So yung Haversian system is a canal that is found on the center of a single osteon. Okay? So, ano ba ang function ng ating Haversian system? It contains, no, the blood vessels and nerve fibers. Kung nakita niyo dyan, yung blue and red, di ba, blood vessels. So, kapag merong Haversian system, ang isang bone, that means it is vascularized. No, meron siyang Haversian system containing blood vessels that support or provide blood to the bone. Okay, so ang compact bone natin, meron siyang blood supply galing sa blood vessels inside the Haversian system. Okay? Okay, just an additional information, class. Yung osteocytes natin kanina, I forgot to tell you, osteocytes or mature bone cells do not undergo cell division. Okay? Hindi na sila nag-undergo ng mitosis kasi nga mature na sila, no? Kapag mature na yung bone, hindi na siya nag-undergo ng elongation. Hindi na nagde-divide yung cells niya. Kasi you've reached the age in which nag-stop na mag-grow ang bones. So ang osteocytes natin does not undergo mitosis. Okay, compact bone. Now we have the spongy bone. Ang mga spongy bone natin, wala silang Haversian system, but a red bone marrow is present. Okay, yung Haversian system na palitan ng red bone marrow. Sa red bone marrow, nangyayari ang ating hematopoiesis or what do you call the blood formation. Okay, number 4, articular cartilage, which is smooth and found on joint surfaces. And lastly, you have the periosteum, which is a fibrous connective tissue membrane that anchors tendons and ligaments and contains blood vessels that enter the bones. So, your periosteum, class, nandito yan siya. Ayan siya, parang outer membrane siya surrounding your bones. Now, the periosteum, it makes the connection between the tendons and the ligaments. When we say tendon, kapag ano nga ang tendon, parang nabanggit ko ito sa inyo noon. When you say tendon, it connects muscles to bones. Kapag ang kinoconnect niya ay muscle, no, sa mga bones, ang tawag dyan is tendon. Kapag ligament naman, it connects one bone to another bone. Kuha? So, yan ang pinagkaiba. Kapag muscle to bone, tendon. Kapag bone to bone, ligaments. Okay, another one, pwede ring joints to joints, no, para ah, sa ating ligaments. Another one, let's proceed. We have the gross structure of a typical long bone. So, you have here the long bone, yung structure ng ating long bone. Number one, diaphysis or the shaft of the long bone, yung nasa middle part, no? Okay, yung length niya sa gitna, that is the shaft. And then, inside the shaft or the diaphysis, you will have the medullary cavity. Okay, yung parang hollow portion inside the shaft, you call that as medullary cavity. Now, endosteum, okay, is a thin layer of connective tissue that lines the medullary cavity. So, inside, no, inside the walls of the medullary cavity, may makikita kang connective tissue called endosteum. Ito siya. Okay. And then, yung dulo, no, yung mga dulo-dulo ng long bone naman natin, ang tawag dyan is epiphysis. So, or you will find them at the either ends of the diaphysis, consisting of a spongy bone and surrounded by compact bone. So, the red bone marrow is found within the pores of the spongy bone. Okay? So, nakita niyo yung porous dyan na part, no, at the end. Diyan nakalagay ang red bone marrow. So, it is the epiphysis. And the inside this, do you call this? Inside your epiphysis, containing the red bone marrow, nangyayari yung formation of blood. Next, epiphyseal epiphyseal plate, no? Meron tayong dalawa, epiphyseal plate and epiphyseal line. Kapag hindi pa mature ang bone, ang tawag mo dyan sa linya na yan is epiphyseal plate. So, meaning, kapag epiphyseal plate pa ang present, meaning the bone is still growing. Kuha? Tapos, kapag yung individual na-reach niya na yung age kung saan hindi na humahaba or lumalaki ang bones, yung epiphyseal plate ninyo, mako-convert into epiphyseal line. So, kapag epiphyseal line na ang present dito, that means the bone is no longer growing. Okay? So, specifically, your epiphyseal plate separates the diaphysis and epiphysis, a region of mitotic activity responsible for linear bone growth. Okay? So, mahaba ang bone dahil dito. When an individual matures, the epiphyseal plate will be replaced by your epiphyseal line. Okay? So, that means that the bone is already done. Na-complete niya na yung growth phase niya. Okay? Next, you have the periosteum. So, this is a dense regular connective tissue that covers the bone and is the site of the tendon attachment and diameter bone growth. So, ang ambag ng ating periosteum is para sa pagkapal no ng mga bones. So, siya yung outer covering ng inyong bone or long bone. Next, bone surface mark. So, ito lang yung mga what do you call this? Iba't ibang klase ng fissures or deepening marks no sa labas ng bone. Okay, so yan these are the structural features visible on the surfaces of the bones. And you have two major types, the depressions and openings, at saka processes. The depressions and openings, they form joints or allow the passage of soft tissue such as blood vessels, nerve ligaments, and tendons. Ang example natin is your fissure, your foramen, your fossa, sulcus, and meatus. Another one is the processes. Now, these are projections or outgrowths that form joints or attachments attachment points for connective tissue such as ligament and tendon. So, ang pinagkaiba lang siguro nito, ang depression and openings will serve as passage for blood vessels, nerves, and ligaments. Ang processes naman for attachment of joints or attachment points. So, ang processes, didikitan ang depressions and openings papasukan ng mga blood vessel. So, sa processes, meron tayong condyle, facet, your crest, epicondyle, trochanter, tubercle, at saka tuberosity. So, just refer to the pictures, no, para makita ninyo kung saan yan ang tinutukoy. Next, we have, okay, let's go to classification of bones. You have here 4 types. Number 1, the long bones. Ito yung mahaba na bones in the body. So you have, number 1, for example, no, sa long bones natin is the arms, the legs. The shaft is the diaphysis compact bone with a narrow cavity containing yellow bone marrow. Ends are epiphysis or spongy bone. So, ang long bones natin, meron silang bone marrow. Okay, it contains bone marrow. Okay, at the end, no? At the end of, or ganito na lang. The red bone marrow is found at the ends of your long bones. Sa dulo-dulo, doon sa epiphysis. Okay, kasi may 2 types tayo ng bone marrow. Just to remind you, there are 2 types of bone marrows. The red bone marrow and the yellow bone marrow. Ang red bone marrow natin, kaya siya color red kasi dito nangyayari ang blood formation. So, where can you find the red bone marrow? At the ends of the long bone, sa epiphysis. Now, the other one is the yellow bone marrow. Okay, ang main function ng yellow bone marrow natin is for production of cartilage, fats, no? And it is also a storage of fats, no, in what we call adipocytes. So itong ating yellow bone marrow, meron siyang maraming adipocytes. When you see adipocytes, these are cells containing fats. Okay, so just remember, yellow bone marrow meaning storage ng fats. Meron siyang adipocytes. So para saan yung function ng yellow bone marrow? If ang function niya hindi naman para sa formation of blood. Ang yellow bone marrow natin, it functions as a storage of fat to provide energy for the bones. Okay? So para siya i-sustain, no, ang ating mga bones for energy. So, yan siya, yellow bone marrow. And you will find the yellow bone marrow at the middle, no, sa diaphysis, dito banda. Okay, next. Short bones. Examples natin dyan is yung mga bones sa wrist, sa ankles, and ano ang laman nila? Spongy bone covered with compact bone. You also have the flat bones that includes your ribs, your pelvic bone, your cranial bones. So, spongy bone din sila na nabalutan ng compact bone. And then lastly, you have the irregular. Nandito na yung mga kakaibang shape like your vertebrae, your facial bones. Okay? So, ganun din. Spongy bone covered with compact bone. Okay. Sige.